in extreme poverty in June this year. In 2017, Transparency International ranked Nigeria 148 least corrupt nation out of 180 countries. Our inflation rate is at 11.23% as at August 2018 this year, with over 33% of our youths currently unemployed. Attached to these issues are the problems of epileptic power supply, gross insecurity, ethnic disunity, religious killings in different parts of our nation. With the ugly scenarios that have been presented above, the task of nation building seems to be wrapped up in a narrative of forlorn hope. Citizens of these nations are disappointed and distraught as regards to the issue of governance. As a result of this, there's an abdication from civic responsibility by many citizens, especially during the period of election. There's complacency, there's lukewarmness as a result of the acute misgovernance that has been witnessed in the greater part of these last 19 years. It is therefore imperative to point out that the demographic structure or the demographic group of this society that mostly exhibits these traits highlighted above are the young adults and youths of our nation. Most especially the young believers in this particular group, and it is a very unfortunate thing that we occupy the largest percentage in this group. Society, according to the social contract theory, propounded by the likes of J.J. Rousseau, Immanuel Kant, John Locke, and other social contract theorists of the Enlightenment age, works when both the citizens and the government fulfill their respective obligations in the contract that binds the society together. In essence, to submit that the crisis of nation building in Nigeria is a creation of both the leaders and its citizens is a discovery that will help us understand the problems that we are facing, and it will help us chart a way forward. To address these challenges highlighted above, amongst other sundry bottlenecks to nation building, the young adults and youths of the Redeemed Christian Church of God hereby present the agenda. The agenda is a forum for socio-political and socio-economical engagement towards awakening the consciousness of young Nigerian believers and young Nigerians at large, and equipping them to contribute immensely to the nation building of our country, Nigeria, via active and productive participation in every sector of the society. This inaugural edition, tagged Changing the Narratives, will be focusing on the forthcoming 2019 general elections with the purpose of addressing the challenge of poor participation of young believers in the electional process vis-a-vis the complacency of believers to exercise their civil rights, to demand accountability from elected public office holders at any point in time. This year, we'll be engaging young Nigerians as we seek to change narratives that have held citizens bound with the mindset that we are a people who don't matter in decision-making, whilst we also seek to conscientize those young adults towards realizing their inalienable rights as stakeholders in this nation. Only when citizens recognize their status as stakeholders, can we have a society where democracy can take its true course. Only when citizens take the center stage and participate actively in the process of governance can we truly work towards our nation building. Only then can the dream of a greater, a better, a new Nigeria begin to swing towards reality. So therefore, I challenge you all at this crucial point in our nation's history to rise up, to wake up, and take your rightful place as a stakeholder and play your role in moving this beautiful nation of ours forward in the right direction. God bless you, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Thank you very much, sir. To actually go on with the keynote speech presently, I beg your pardon, is the Executive Director, Enough is Enough Nigeria, EIE. EIE is an organization that is committed to building a culture of good governance and public accountability in Nigeria through active and spanning across public and private sectors in the United States and Nigeria. Yemi has worked as a management consultant in Navigant Consulting and at Alder Consulting. She also did a 4-year stint at RCCG Jesus House, DC, as operations coordinator before moving back to Nigeria. She has over the years made an invaluable impact towards nation building through her activities in the private sector. The Crusade for Good Governance through the EIE and several other laudable initiatives. Ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, let's make welcome Yemi Ademolakun as she makes the keynote speech.
Independence. Pastor Darius set a wonderful tone for the conversation we're going to have for the next hour, but I'll share a few of my thoughts around the work that we do, what I hope you take away around being an active citizen in Nigeria in this time and this day. Okay, so I work for an organization called Enough is Enough Nigeria, and EIE is a non-partisan organization that really is trying to focus on public accountability through citizenship. We want citizens to take their active role in ensuring that Nigeria works for the benefit of all of us. And we focus on 18 to 35-year-olds, okay, who are very, we say who are literate. And the idea really is, because we started small, we wanted people who had access to technology. So mobile phones, access to the internet. And we say that your thumb is your only finger that can touch your other fingers very easily. The other fingers will struggle, but your thumb does it very easily. So we say for those who have access, think of yourself as a thumb. And then you are able to educate others around what you can learn online. Okay, the theme for today is changing narratives. So there are two narratives, I would say, is the narrative that we will frame this around, what is established, and what I want us to think about. The first one is the fact that Christians don't do politics, that religion and politics don't mix, okay? That's the first narrative. The second one is a sense of helplessness that we have as Nigerians, that we're voiceless, that we're invisible, and that we're, in a sense, there's a sense of hopelessness, that things just happen and we pray. And we're just praying and hoping and trusting God that one day, something will happen. But that's the narrative. But I want to present to you a slightly different one. And it's really based in who we are as children of God. Okay, so starting point number one, God. Okay? God is love. God is omnipotent. God is omniscient. God says every animal in the forest, cattle on 1,000 hills, the world is mine and all its fullness. The silver is mine, the gold is mine, God is the first and the last. God is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. With God, nothing shall be impossible. And there's a famous song that I think it's Ada who sings now that goes, pardon my voice, not very good. Creator of the universe, what can't you do? That God can do everything. He is almighty. So that's narrative number one, truth. Anybody disagrees with me in here? Are we? We all agree that this describes God. Excellent. So number two, dominion. Then God said, let us make human beings in our image to be like us. They will reign over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, the livestock, all the wild animals on the earth, and the small animals that scurry along the ground. So God created human beings in his own image. Fact number two. Let's go to fact number three, dominate. For we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus. Look, I have given you authority. Those are facts. Fact number four, salt and light. Matthew says we are the salt of the earth. But what good is salt if it loses its flavor? What then is it doing? And he says we are the light of the world. Let your good deeds shine out for all to see so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father. Okay, so we're salt and we're light. Now, one of the analogies I love about light and darkness is that darkness is not necessarily the opposite of light. It is the absence of light. So it's not words and opposites we're doing. We're saying that darkness is the absence of light. So if this whole room goes dark, pitch black, and someone opens a door that has access to light, there's suddenly visibility. But imagine if on that wall there are multiple doors that then begin to open and light begins to shine in. And that's how I want us to think of ourselves, because I've just shared the scripture. I didn't make it up. It's in the Bibles that we all have that says we are light. So what that means to me is that when I enter a space, I enter a room, I enter a situation, there must be clarity. It cannot be, this room cannot be dark, and I enter as light, and it remains dark. It's not possible. So in the conversations we have around Nigeria that sometimes makes us feel tired, helpless, hopeless, there's something that we carry that should make us different, and that is simply that because we're the light of this world, okay? Now, God gives us our commission. It says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. Preach the gospel, heal the brokenhearted, proclaim liberty to the captives, and set at liberty those who are oppressed, okay? So therefore, if we see an image like this, okay, where government seems very comfortable, as we can see, I mean, who looks the most comfortable in this picture? Government, I mean? And the people look like struggling a little bit, just a little. Now, if this is an image that we see, does that not call into something the mandate that we have to set captives free? To do something about this people image of this man that's looking, that's struggling just a little bit. There's something in this image that should arise us to want to do something, to want to take action. So the next slide, and that says, and that's the anchor of what we are talking about today, that I am a child of God. I am a Nigerian, and I am Nigeria. Nigeria would not exist if there are no Nigerians. But what makes us different as from every other Nigerian is that we're saying we're anchored on something. We're anchored on a belief system that speaks to helping, that speaks to speaking. And Pastor Dari did an excellent job when he was speaking on just providing the basis of what is it as citizens that citizens and government have in what is called a social contract. If I wanted to go into partnership with Pastor Dari, we can say we would have a contract where we would state what I, as Yemi, would do and what Pastor Dari would do. We would agree, he would sign, I would sign. And that's a contract. So contract is binding. And that's the whole idea of a social contract that government has with its citizens. I will provide water, I will provide light, and you as a citizen will pay your taxes, you will obey laws, you would be responsible citizens. So there's a rules and regulations, so to speak, that govern our existence as citizens. And that's what a social contract is. But why should we get involved? In all of this, why should we get involved? Because what is good is good. And what is bad is bad. It's not about the other. It's not about, let them continue to do what they're doing. God will help. God will help. God will help. No, you have 5 fingers, legs, brain to think, mouth to speak, eyes to see, to act. And one of my favorite quotes is this: the world is not dangerous because of those who do harm, but because of those who look at it without doing anything. And this essence of not doing anything is contradictory to the faith that we profess. And I want you to think about that. We profess a faith that speaks to helping the poor, helping the lonely, helping the healing the brokenhearted, that speaks to being a brother's keeper, that the commandments that we have, love God with all your heart and all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Those are the only two, really. Everything boils down into those things. So how can you love your neighbor as yourself, and you see someone who is being beaten on the road, who is being treated unfairly, and you just walk past and say, God, help that person. God, help that person. Or even, at least one point is to say a prayer. Another point is just to pretend like you didn't see. That it's not concerning me. And we sometimes use scripture in a way to justify our inaction. We say when they say there's a casting down, we shall say there's a lifting up. And that sometimes when we use it, helps us absolve ourselves of responsibility and say we shall overcome. Okay, so I'm hoping, my objective today is to get you to think about what the faith that you profess requires of you as a child of the Most High God. A definition by United Nations of social justice. Social justice is about equality and fairness between human beings. It works on the universal principle that guide people in knowing what is right and what is wrong, okay? Now, this is interesting because there's a tie to our Constitution in that definition, okay? Chapter 2 of our Constitution talks about the role of citizens. And this is a bit of how Mrs. Ezekwesili takes this out of. And she frames it as saying the office of the citizen is the highest office in the land. Now, for a lot of us, we tend to think that the president has the highest office, the office of the president. But the office of the president is the highest political office. But the office of the citizen is the highest office in the land. And the reason is very simple. From the president to the governor to the senator to the House of Rep member, none of them would have a job if not for you and I. None. So they have their jobs at our mandate, if I want to use that word. Unlike the church, which is a theocracy, there's no democracy in the church. But in a democracy that we run, they have the jobs that they do because we as citizens have entrusted our lives, in a sense, into their hands. Not lives because they determine your destiny, but lives because the policies that they create determine how you live. That's what determines if you pay 10,000 naira or school fees is 50,000 naira. That's what determines if you have running water or you have to dig a borehole. If you have light or you have to buy a generator. If you have roads that work or you have potholes that you have to contend with. Okay? So that is the essence of what their role is that we've given to them. Now, okay. Does this picture make sense? Now, you have someone on the other side, and it could be anybody. It could be a class captain, it could be neighborhood association chairman, anybody. And everybody is on this side just listening. But look at the gentleman that's walking away. Everybody is focused because they don't know their power. Now, immediately one person walks, and another person takes a step, and another person takes a step. What will happen? But before that, I would imagine that when the board begins to tilt a little bit, he will begin to negotiate and say, so what exactly do you want? Oh, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. Let's talk about it now. The dynamics will change suddenly because he needs the people on that side to stay on that side so that he can stay where he is. Or better yet, when he's noticing it, he will come to their side so we're all working together. But then there begins to be a conversation. The terms of the contract change a little bit because both of them now need themselves, okay? So that's why. citizens, as Pastor Dari, Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, and now we have terrorism probably over the last decade, and it's continued to increase. Now, when you mix all of that, you have a very, very, very dangerous mix. Dangerous mix because anything can set it off. Over the last 1 year, this year, we've seen a lot happening across the country. A few days ago, there was an attack in University of Jos, where students were attacked. Gunmen invaded University of Jos. So as citizens begin to feel unsafe, and someone says, oh, it's because this ethnic group doesn't like this ethnic group, or this religion is against this religion, we live in a country that it then becomes uncomfortable, unsafe, okay? So what that needs to help us to think about is what our role is in that. So you can't have a larger structure like that. And you think of, so that's me in the corner. So we're saying we have poverty in our minds and souls, dysfunctional social services, leadership, and we just stay in the corner. And as long as I'm okay, I don't want to think about that box. But really what we need to be thinking about is, what is my own space around dealing with any of those issues? And what can we do? 5 things I would share. 1 is walking our faith. Breaking the rules is not okay, even if everyone does it. Holding ourselves to a higher standard because we profess to serve a God who is different, a God who is loving and kind, and a God who obeys rules. That should be our own motto, not what everybody else is doing. Okay? Number 2, what you can do. This aptly summarizes, therefore to him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, it is sin. Second thing you can do, speak up. I'm sure some of us remember the case of Queen's College, I think it was last year, where there was an accusation against a teacher. Now, what was interesting was that the alumni of Queen's College chose to speak up. They had a former bank MD, university VCs. They had produced a lot of people who were contributing members of society. And they were like, no, this cannot be the narrative of the school I went to, and I will not say anything. So they spoke up. Okay? Another way to look at it is this story about speaking up and the power of our voice. And I'll read it so we can think about it as I read it. My name is Joke. I lost my first baby in a hospital due to negligence. My family knows, the hospital knows, my pastor knows. I wanted to report the doctor and the hospital. I wanted the hospital to be sanctioned so another mother wouldn't experience my pain. My family begged me, my pastor begged me, I relented. A year later, I read about another mother's experience in the same hospital on Twitter. This time, the mother and the child died. If I had done something, would I have saved their lives? Now, this speaks to, again, back to our personal responsibility. Our faith does speak to forgiveness. I can forgive you for an offense, but I also have a responsibility to make sure that you are not in a place to harm somebody else. And for me, that's what that story just says. That yes, my child is gone. You can't bring the child back. And I can forgive you for your offense, but I need to ensure that you're not running a facility that will put other people's children at harm. And this captured, again, what Pastor Dari said earlier. The efforts of the government alone will never be enough. In the end, the people must choose, and the people must help themselves. Again, a personal responsibility to be active citizens. Another thing, okay, that we can do is participating in the electoral process as we go towards 2019 elections. My organization runs a campaign titled RSVP, Register to Vote, Select Credible Candidates, Vote Not Fight, and then Protect Your Vote. And it's really very simple. Especially the select bit. There's a lot of questions around who do we vote for, how do we vote? And one thing I really hope you think about is when you think about voting, is that less about the person as an individual, but what does the person bring to the table? If someone is running to be a governor, what is the job description of a governor? What is a governor supposed to be able to do? Manage people, manage resources, have a vision for a state, have a vision for the people of the state, understand if you have 1 million population or 15 million population, how do you want to manage it? If you have a state that's multicultural, how do you want to ensure that everybody feels that they are welcome in that state? Now, that is your job description. So if I, as Yemi, decide I want to run for governor, what have I done that enables me to fulfill that role and serve the people that are in my care? that's how I want us to think about it, because sometimes we get a bit lost in who is the person this or a person that, and I would like to particularly speak about people who are running as Christians as well. Is the person a Christian or is the person a Muslim? Genesis 12 talks about, through you, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. It didn't say some. It didn't say this part of the world. It said all. So we have a responsibility. And it doesn't matter who, when, what, how. Isaiah 45, if I'm not mistaken, speaks about Cyrus, who was anointed of God but did not know God. But God needed him to fulfill a purpose. So as we weigh those who are running for office across the different tiers, senator, House of Rep member, let's ensure that the person is someone that God can use and wants to be used to meet the needs of a society. Yeah? And we looked at this mixed picture earlier. And because, so RSVP, S is select, vote, you vote on election day, and P is about protecting your vote. And you protect your vote not only on election day, but in the 4 years in between by holding them accountable, paying attention, connecting the dots, and asking questions. I mean, I have a fantastic story of my senator. The first time I called him, he was like, who are you? Why are you calling me? I was like, are you a journalist? No. Do you belong to my party? No. Okay, so why are you calling me? I live in Ikeja. You are my senator, sir. Yeah. Okay. And we had a conversation. It was a bit feisty in the beginning, but I tried to let him know that, I just wanted to know how you voted on, I forget what the issue was at the time. So you don't have a right to know. I was like, I do have a right to know. And he was a bit taken aback by it. But now if I call him, he says, hello, my sister, how are you? But it was a dynamic because he wasn't used to being asked questions. And so he took a personal offense to someone just calling him and asking him how you voted. Yes, you are in the National Assembly because you represent me. You don't represent yourself. So there's an education that needs to happen on the part of our government officials and on the citizens. Back to Pastor Darius' point, a social contract. You know your responsibilities, I know my responsibilities. This is, again, one of my really favorite quotes. Just because you do not take an interest in politics doesn't mean politics won't take an interest in you. And that speaks again to what I talked earlier about, the policies that people in government create that affects our lives. Okay? This one might rub a few people the wrong way, but I thought it was a cute quote. The Greek word for idiot, literally translated, means one who does not participate in politics. This sums up my conviction on the subject. This is a senator in the US. It might seem a bit rough, but basically what she's trying to say is what the previous quote said. Because you are abdicating responsibility so that whatever they do affects you, but you are saying you are not interested. So someone can decide how you wake up, how you sleep, if you take a step to the left or take a step to the right, and you're saying, I'm not interested. No, it can't be. Okay? It can't be. It can't be enough. Another thing you can do in participating, give of your time, your skills, your networks, and your money. Now, all of us are at different levels and at different tiers. There's some things, some might be opportune to do, some might not be opportune to do. But you can contribute in one of these ways. T.Y. Bello, for example, I think it was 2 years ago, famous photographer, just thought, you know what, I want to be able to see what is happening in Maiduguri. And she went to Maiduguri, spent about a week or so taking pictures, interacting with children in IDP camps. Now, TY's photographs are amazing. But what she chose to do, and nobody paid her anything, nobody invited her, she just thought, there's so much happening. How can I use my skill to bring this to light, okay? So this is her. She's missing her natural, her trademark afro, but that's her. And she took pictures of young girls and took their story, okay? And their stories, sharing what their experiences were and what they had seen in the camp. This is one of the children. She says, I don't know it's because I found it difficult to get good sleep since I started making these images, or simply because they both have round foreheads, but it's amazing how children look alike. The look on her face, I'd never seen on anyone her age. This little girl had seen things she shouldn't have. Visions of her kept me awake. She just stared harder and harder at the corner. This is, I believe, a five-year-old girl. But what TY was simply doing was using the gift that she has to help tell a story so people would see what is happening in Maiduguri from a different perspective. This is another young lady she took. My name is Hafsat Mohammed. Boko Haram terrorists came to our town. They killed my brothers and sisters. I now live here at the camp and go to school. I'm in primary 2. When I close my eyes, I imagine a tomorrow where I'm a doctor and I'm helping other people. It's a function of her story, TY's skill, and you and I then get to see into Hafsat's world and what her world is, and hoping that her dreams come true when there's peace in the country, okay? Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. Speaks a bit also to sometimes our sense of helplessness, because the issues just seem so large. Where do I start? What do I do? It doesn't have to be a big thing. Start small. Start in your home. Start in your community. Start in your school. Start at work. Start in church. Start in your street. Find the one thing that speaks to you, that you say, you know what, on this particular issue, I want to be focused. It can be children, it can be the elderly, it can be just ensuring that the gutter on my street is always clean. Something. And it's the cumulative impact of small, small actions that lead to a larger output. Another thing you can do, support good people for public office and or join a political party. Daddy Jill has been talking about this for almost 2 years now, about joining political parties. And it's very important, and I'd like to speak very briefly on that. Now, on election day when we show up to vote, the parties have decided who we're voting for. So either Joke or Amina, the options have been chosen for you. And you just need to choose, do I prefer Joke or do I prefer Amina? But by joining the political party, you then decide if it's Joke that is put forward. Because it is within the parties that they either have direct primaries, i.e. every party member gets to vote, or indirect primaries when you have some delegates either from office holders, past governors or past office holders who are part of the delegates. So it's in being part of that process, not only do you get a say, but we also get to speak to a lot of the things we talk about in our political parties. That, okay, this party stands for what? This party stands for what? Do I want a party that believes that all the Commonwealth should be shared equally? Or do I want a party that's driven by business, that we want business and profit making, provide a strong economy so that businesses can make money and then it will trickle down to everybody else? Or whatever the ideology of the party might be. Is that what we're looking for? Then you choose, and then you begin to help the party grow. I will say this, it is not a sprint. This thing is a marathon. Day by day, step by step, we have to work it to make it work. The price of apathy towards public affairs is to be ruled by evil men. And I use the word evil loosely. Not necessarily think of evil as men without accountability. Because if you are apathetic towards politics, i.e. you don't care, you then leave people to do whatever they want. So think of evil in that sense. People who don't have someone to check them that, this is not right. Or say, oh, no, you can't do that. Okay? Nigeria's elections are around the corner. I think I'd screenshot this morning. So we have 137 days to elect a president, 151 days to elect governors, and I think about 29 odd states. Some states have elections off cycle. As we continue the conversation this afternoon, we started off with the narrative that Christians shouldn't get involved in politics and that there's so much going on. Oh, I'm tired. Let me just face my life and trust God to make all things good. And my submission to you this afternoon is that no, that mindset is contrary to the faith that you profess. I tell people that anybody that wants to make my life difficult or wants to try will get a fight from me. Because not only do I believe I deserve better as Yemi Adamolegun, I also believe my fellow Nigerians deserve better. There's nothing that Nigeria doesn't have to provide a good space for citizens. We have fantastic human beings. We have been gifted with all sorts of natural resources, from the top of the country to the bottom. So there's really no reason. The responsibility is ours to decide what is it that we want Nigeria to do for us. Every other country that we might want to visit or visited, there are nationals of that country who have decided to make it work. That's why America works. Americans are making it work. Brits are making Britain work. It's Canada today that everybody's running to. They've also made their country work. It's why they have the capacity to open their doors and say, come on in. Nigeria can also work. And I really want you to think about what is my role in making Nigeria work. We have a role to play in politics. We have a role to play in governance. So there's one thing to run for office, yes. There's another thing to be involved in governance, i.e., those who have elected to represent us, how are they serving us? And when they don't serve us well, be able to say, sorry, sir, that's not right. And getting involved and asking questions. A bit of our culture might make us a bit skeptical. Or not, let me not say it was skeptical, because we defer to elders. So it's kind of hard to ask an elderly person, sorry, sir, that money allocated to the school, please, sir, what has happened to you? Sorry, sir, I'm just asking. But there is a way that we can ask. Not in a confrontational way necessarily, not in an angry way necessarily, but in a way that speaks to, I as a citizen, I'm asking you who have elected to represent me, how you're doing. And it's not always you versus us. It's how can we work together? How can we help you? How can we help move this country and this space forward? My submission to you this afternoon is really that as children of the Most High God, there is a confidence that we should have because of the God that we serve, that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. So therefore, as a child of God, there is nothing that I should be afraid of, politics or not. There is nothing that my light should not shine into, because it is in my light shining that my God receives all the glory.
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much, Mrs. Yemi Adamoleko. Young Nigerians, can we please give her another round of applause? Let's give her another round of applause. That was indeed something really, really great to spur us on to deliberately be involved in changing the narrative. And now we're going to have a music presentation by a young Nigerian. He is from southern Nigeria as well, southwest to be specific. Ladies and gentlemen, to render a song titled Heal Nigeria, please let us welcome Odunwayo Aboderin.
Have mercy, Lord. Restore our glory. Heal our nation, our nation. Let our crying days be gone. Forgive us our sins. Let your word be placed on every heart. Let men know that you are God. Lord, heal Nigeria. Have mercy, Lord. Restore our glory. Lord, heal Nigeria, Nigeria. Please let our crying days be gone. Forgive us our sins. Let your word be placed on every heart. Let men know that you are God. From the north to the south, from the east to the west, from the north to the south, from the east to the west, we break rain, oh God, rain, oh God, please rain, oh God, all over Nigeria, rain, oh God, oh God of creation, direct our noble cause, guide thou all of our leaders right, help our youths the truth to know, in love and honesty to grow and live in just and true. Great love to heights attain, to build a nation where peace and justice shall reign, oh God. We pray, reign, oh God. All over Nigeria, we pray, reign, oh God. Let your peace reign, reign, oh God. Raise your voice and say, rain, oh God, rain, oh God. Say, rain, oh God. That is our prayer, rain, oh God. We need you. Let the blood shed, let everything that needs to be, oh, rain, oh God. Let the blood shed, let it cease. Let corruption, let it cease. Rain, oh God. From the north to the south, from the east to the west, from the north down to the south, from the east to the west, we pray, rain, oh God.
Put your hands together for Oduayo Aboderi. From the north to the south, from the east to the west, let the peace of God reign over Nigeria in Jesus' name. And in my dialect, in Hausa, we say, let the peace, which is Tunaye Sumunche, let the peace of God reign over Nigeria in Jesus' name. Thank you.
All right, I'm sure we should have an Igbo person in the audience. So somebody wants to say it loud. Say it loud from wherever you are. And everybody will say what? I think amen is amen wherever you go. Please, a round of applause.
All right.
A round of applause.
You, LG.
And now, still on the agenda 2018, we're about to go into a session that is the core of this program you're viewing right now. We're having a panel session And at this point, we are going to be handing over to a legal practitioner who will be the moderator of that panel session. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, please give a round of applause for Abiodun Famojiro.
Please appreciate our anchors once again. I'd like to say a very big welcome to those who are viewing us live on every media platform globally all over the world. For the avoidance of doubt, once again, Abiodun Famojiro is my name. Welcome to the agenda. I am going to be inviting to come up to the elevated platform our panelists. The first person I will be calling upon is an experienced business attorney with a demonstrated history and competence in the legal industry. Please make welcome Caleb Oganetega. The next person I will be calling up is a gentleman that has made a determined effort to take his talk into walk. He is a contestant in the State House of Assembly on the platform of a political party in Nigeria. He's a career and international expert, including the change agent. Make welcome Solomon Enilalobo. Our next panelist is determined that the population of unemployment in Nigeria should reduce. He's the co-founder of Jobberman, an employment website with more than 15 million users. He's involved in many things in Nigeria with 12 years of experience. Make welcome Okpeyemi Awoyemi. If you say she needs an introduction, you're wrong. Enough is what she takes about. She is no other person than our keynote speaker, Yemi Adamolekun. He's not the least, neither is he the last. He just happens to be the person taking the stage at this point in time. His stature speaks of itself. Make welcome an entrepreneur that is passionate about Nigeria, building budding businesses, ventures. He's a strategic planner, business development, and project manager. Make welcome Jolayemi Ayola. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Without hesitation, we get right into it. This is the agenda, and we're talking about changing the narratives. But before we proceed, I need to ask the fundamental question. What is the narrative that needs to be changed? Because everyone talks about we need to change the narrative. Yemi has explained it to us in detail. But we need to hear your voices as well. We need to know what exactly you're articulating. Joya, I'm going to ask you first.
Thank you.
What is the narrative that needs to be changed?
Well, I would say the narrative generally, as it has to do with Nigeria, has to be changing from being our passive self to being more active participants in governance and nation building. And as far as I'm concerned, I would see it more from a perspective of moving from being consumers to being producers, and that even has to do with even elections. Whether we like it or not, we are consuming what a few people are deciding. And if we're going to become the next generation of builders of this country, we must begin to decide by producing what we want to consume going forward, as against consuming what others make for us to eat.
So we need to start producing ourselves.
Absolutely.
Move away from consumerism. Okpeyemi, you have decided to take the bull by the horn. You've gotten into politics. What is the narrative that needs to change in Nigeria?
Now, one of the things we need to change is the lack of youth inclusion in governance. All over the world, all over the country, You do not have young people in governance. You do not have, whether it's in the House of Assemblies, whether it's in the House of Representatives, whether it's the Senate, whether it's the presidency even, you do not have young people that are involved in governance. You don't have the energy, the passion, the education, even the digital skills needed in governance. We do not have it there. And so those are the things we need to change. We need to retire and replace the old order while we install the new generation into governance. And that is the narrative we need to change in 2019. And we must not get it wrong in 2019. We have to get it right in 2019. So let's change the narrative. That's the key thing that is going to happen in 2019.
Please appreciate it. Retire the old. Solomon, you want to retire a massive generation, if I hear you correctly.
Definitely.
Caleb Ogenetega, what is the narrative that needs to be changed?
I believe as a nation, we need to improve our political awareness and participation, just as the first speaker had mentioned. Today we're celebrating our independence, but the question is how independent are you?
Absolutely.
As a Nigerian citizen? How independent are you as a voter? You're not independent if you don't have the right to vote. And your independence means nothing if you are not involved in the process of selecting who you vote for. So you need to begin to reconsider the position that you stand when celebrating independence every October 1st. How independent are you? Do you have the right to vote? If you have the right to vote, how involved have you been in the process that has produced the people that you are voting for? That is a question that we need to continue to ask ourselves.
And that is a narrative that must change.
That is a narrative that must change.
Before you tell me your perspective about changing narrative, allow me to ask you, do you have a voter's card?
Yes, I do.
Are you planning to vote in the next election?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. That is a double yes, so in case I didn't hear you, I hear you now.
3 yeses.
Nigeria is hearing you. Tell me about your perspective about changing the narrative.
In my everyday interactions with common folk, what I hear is people really do not believe that Nigeria can be better. And I say this not as an entrepreneur who has a clear mind about how I think about things. I'm a realist. The fact that Nigeria will be better, right? Some elements to make that happen, and we are seeing it over the course of the last 5 years, I must say. And it's clear that Nigeria will be better. Our work is how do we quicken this and make it happen much more faster than just waiting for it to evolve over time. So I think what needs to change is people need to believe that Nigeria can be better and then start adding their own part to that voice.
Thank you very much, Opayemi. You believe that Nigeria can be better?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yemi, you've spoken to us on the keynote about changing the narrative. You've told us to stop being observers and become engaged in the process. But then there are some fundamental questions. How do you change the narrative of a man that is poor, financially unable to feed? How do you change the narrative of a man that doesn't know where the next meal will come from? How do you tell the man that you can buy with 500 naira, that a narrative can change?
Well, it's a process. I think part of the challenge is wanting to convince that man at the moment where he has to make a choice.
Absolutely.
So you're standing in front of me and you're saying 500 naira or your future. Decide now. For someone at that point, it's an engagement that's over a period of time. That's number one. Number two, it's also for institutions that want to change that. And Okoyemi made the point about the roles that we all play. Understanding that it's a collective. So it's not just about the man who can't feed, but it's about Yemi that can feed and has a bit extra and can give and can employ and can provide skills so the man can get a job so he can feed himself. If we don't think of them as connected pieces of a puzzle for a better Nigeria, but think of it as that man and then my reality separate, then we won't get it right. And it's also something we must think of as a journey to an end, not decisions on election day.
Not decisions on the election day. Nigeria is not short of laws. We have various laws every day being churned out by the National Assembly. But the challenge is this. Recently, the Not Too Young to Rule bill was passed. There was great excitement. about young people going into offices, but there's a challenge. And I need you to address. I'm going to start with Caleb. If you cannot join a political party and you want to be independent, the narrative says you have no business in politics. It's either you join a political party or you become an observer. Isn't this maintaining the status quo of a wrong narrative?
I mean, that's the basic place to start for us as a nation, ensuring that the environment is conducive enough for the changes that we want to see. The laws, as you've rightly stated, make it difficult for anybody to run on their platform. You have to be part of a political party. The challenge, however, is Nigerians are, as somewhere Okpemi said, Nigerians do not believe in the system. They do not believe that things can change. If you look at a political party, the political parties that are coming up now, I mean, look at Mr. Fela Durete, for example. He could not pick one political party that exists right now to run on their platform. There's a reason, because he feels that they do not represent the ideals that he wants to portray. And that he represents a lot of Nigerians who sit in this auditorium and who walk on the streets. The political parties do not represent their ideals. So how do they, as individuals, then, pass across the message that they want to pass across? In the absence of laws that allow you to run as an independent, what can you do? You can influence, and that is where the aggressive, active participation comes in. As an individual, you must become part of the system that exists to change it. You must become part of the systems that already at work, the political parties that exist. You must join one ward at one local government in your state and begin from one person to change that narrative in wherever you are. The people who control the political space right now are people who started somewhere. And the problem that we have as individuals or as citizens is that we practice Insta politics, the way we have Instagram. We want to instantly post and we want to instantly change, but it's not possible. You have to do it gradually. You start from the very bottom and wind your way to the very top. Absolutely. And you have to be active. Influence yourself, influence your neighbor, influence the next person, and then very, very soon, eventually, you will get the change that we desire.
Caleb, you have thrown a challenge to our generation that we want Insta politics.
That's correct.
Acronym from Instagram. Solomon, you have decided to run on a platform of a political party. But there's a question. In recent elections in Nigeria, the last one that took place was considered inconclusive, Osun State to be precise. And then there were a lot of interesting dynamics at the rerun. And some people have said, the reason why we're not part of the political process, my vote does not count. Why will I line up in my ward to vote for hours? At the end of it, there were 20 of us that voted in that ward. The election result says that we were 500. Where did the 480 come from? I counted us. How is that sustainable? If my vote does not count, someone says, why will I burn my little energy? Why will I stress myself? How do we change the narrative that my vote does not count?
INEC has moved, really. What happened in 1999 is different from what happened in the following year. And let me come to the recent past. What happened in 2011 was different from what happened in 2015. In fact, most people praised Jega, Atayu Jega, the former INEC chairman, for doing a very good job. And we've moved on. Really, this is 2019 around the corner. What happened in Osun State is called political abracadabra. Really,
you call it political abracadabra.
At the first count, a political party was leading by 353 votes. They had issues in 7 polling units, and they're supposed to do a rerun. And so the power that be proved that they had the power. Now, the problem was not at the rerun. Let me tell you that. The problem was at the first count. If the people of Osun State were ready to really have a change, they would have led that election by 10 to 15,000 votes. That would be a democratic revolution. when people staged a revolution by the ballot box. Now, and that is what we seek for in Nigeria. Excuse me over there. I know you were happy when the question was asked, but I tell you today, your vote counts. If your vote does not count, they won't be paying for it. If your vote does not count, they won't be buying it. I saw reports that they paid as much as 40,000 naira for a single vote at the rerun. If your vote is not that useful, they wouldn't have paid such a huge amount of money to buy a single vote. Your vote counts. And all around here, you see it. If you sell your vote, you sell your future. You sell your vote, you sell your voice. Now, what we need to do in Nigeria is this. All of us need to bring out our PVC and vote them out massively. Now, it is only when you do not really vote that the votes are rigged. In a particular polling booth, if 2,000 votes were casted, someone had 1,900 votes. I call it political revolution, democratic revolution, and someone had just 100 votes. Tell me, how possible will it be to now subvert that and give the person that has 100 votes, give him 1,009, and the one that has 1,009, give him 100 votes? Adam Malekun will tell you, register, select, vote, and protect. That's the last bit of it. You have to protect your vote. Stay there till they count it. INEC in 2019, and I started here already, they are going to transmit the election results right there from the polling booth. And so, to the collation center, they don't have to, in Oshogbo, right? The result from Oshogbo took a lot of hours to get to Oshogbo, right? The result from Oshogbo local government took a lot of hours to get to Oshogbo.
Is there another Oshogbo in Oshogbo?
I mean, we need to begin to wonder, can we take a trip to Oshogbo and begin to ask ourselves, is there another Oshogbo from Oshogbo? Because the result from Oshogbo took a long hours to get to Oshogbo. And so that is the political abracadabra that happened in between. But when we massively vote for change, when we massively vote for people that we believe in, that can do it, then we massively give them that mandate, and no one can change. The power belongs to God. God has given it to us in our democracy, and if we don't use it, we have ourselves to blame.
Thank you, Solomon. Jolayan, I want to come to you. We're talking about changing the narrative. Some persons have said that in Nigeria, the narrative is changing from one generation of political elite to another generation of political elite. They have gone to bring their children globally from wherever they are, and they are entrenching them. So you want to join a political party, and you want to run for an elective office, and they ask you a question.
Who's your father?
Who is your father? And you look at them, and you mention your father's name, but it doesn't ring a bell. In fact, it not only rings a bell, it doesn't ring a bell. Because they've asked you a question, who is your father? How do we confront this disturbing narrative of passing from one generation of decadence in leadership to another generation? How do we correct this narrative?
Thank you very much, Biodun. Caleb made mention of something very instructive, and I want us to keep our minds on that. And that's the fact that many of us want instant food, instant noodles, instant politics. There is no way we can achieve anything substantial if we want it quick and fast. And I'll give an instance with a very small analogy. Two farmers will both have farmlands. One plants maize and the other one plants cocoa. The one who plants maize will harvest 6 times before the one who has cocoa would even harvest once. And that's because he's planting a staple food. He would need to eat immediately. The other guy is planting a cash crop that would continue to earn for life. We are asking for a generation of people that will build Nigeria. Nigeria is not a small microcosm. It's a whole country of more than 200 million people. It requires systemic, consistent, and deliberate actions to birth whatever change we want to see. If we're going to talk about this now, we're talking about maybe another dispensation, 2019, 2023, but we must start now and have it clear what we want to achieve. It's a vision 10 years, a vision 12 years. What exactly do we want to achieve out of Nigeria? The people who birthed independence in Nigeria started 12, 14 years before to sensitize our colonial masters that we were ripe for independence. They didn't come 2 years before and say, we want to wrestle power from you. They became part of the system way before independence, started influencing decisions, started influencing policies before they now said it was time for us to wrestle power from our colonial masters. The new set of political elites are what we'll call neo-colonial masters, within us, ruling us, oppressing and suppressing us. If we want to make any meaningful change, we must start getting into the system from now, introducing politics to our own people who have our own ideologies, who have our own belief system, like Okpe said, who believe that Nigeria can and will be better. And that's the only way we can eliminate godfatherism, political sponsorship that is not for the people, of the people, and by the people. So we must start now by saying, this is where we want to go as a country. We follow this direction to the later, not minding the fact that there will be things that would happen that might want to truncate the process. We must stay there. We must be deliberate about what we want to achieve. And then we can achieve the Nigeria of our dreams in a very short time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, July. Okwayemi, I have a question for you. If the office of the citizen is the highest office in land, why has the citizenry of Nigeria been passive and become accomplices? If the leaders who are leading us were changed, were confronted, were resisted, you hear this is carrying out an illegal act, and you point out to another person that action is illegal, and someone asks you in a language that you understand, do you want them to use your head to break coconuts? Is it you that you want them to break your leg? We find incidences all over Nigeria on social media of persons being physically assaulted and Nigerians are walking away. If the office of the highest citizen is the highest in the land, what are we doing about the subject of being accomplices and passive?
Okay, I have my own, the way I think about this. I think everybody really needs something to hold on to say you're going to sacrifice. And part of that is, I would say, lack of options, lack of viable options. I think to be a very strong leader, that everybody will want to put you in power and cause that massive revolution, right, that Solomon was talking about the other time, requires some level of sacrifice from that leader. And interesting, those sacrifices come in different ways. You know, history, when you look at Mahatma Gandhi, look at Mandela, both good and bad presidents, look at, I'll just mention presidents, I'm not saying good or bad. Look at Mugabe, look at Buhari, look at Kagame. You've seen how they've pretty much led a revolution, right? And people moved for them. The outcomes might be different eventually, but people were ready at some point to sacrifice because they saw something in these leaders. Most of the time when we talk about politics in Nigeria, people are stuck with options that they really can't say they can stick out for them. So if this person, I can't even be sure, I can't even hope that he's going to do something really great for me or for the citizenry, then why should I die for it? And I think that's why the call for us to even move into politics is very key. If we have viable options, people that you can pretty much give your all, or almost your all, your monthly salary to support, right? Then you know we have a candidate right there. What we have now is politicians, for the better part of it, that nobody wants to give them 1 naira for them to contest. That's what we have now, right? And until that starts changing, we'll find that people will continue to be accomplices because, right, you don't have anybody you believe in. We need people to believe in. We need to follow. Pretty much like people will follow Jesus, or follow whoever they believe in. You need someone to believe that sacrificed for you. Not necessarily die for you, like in the case of Jesus Christ, but it's something for you. You can say, this is my idol, and I'm going to get this person to power because he's going to do something back for us. That's
Thank you very much. Yemi, I have to ask you this question. In the national anthem of Nigeria, it talks about the labors of our heroes past. The labors of our heroes past. In Nigeria, today, do we have heroes? Because Okpayemi spoke about the fact we need someone to believe in. We need some people to believe in. National Anthem talks about the labors of our heroes past, with an assumption that Nigeria will give birth to heroes. Do we have heroes?
We do.
Yes, we do have heroes.
We may not see them in the mold of your founding fathers, your Awolowos, your Azikiwes, or in other climes, your Mandelas, your Gandhis. But we don't realize we are sacrificing, but we are. When you get up in the morning at 4 a.m. so that you can be on the road by 5, to be at work on time at 8 or 9 a.m., that's a huge sacrifice. It's a huge sacrifice. When you have to ensure that your child, you are working so hard so you can afford at least to put your child in a school that you know the child will learn, that's a sacrifice. So we're sacrificing, but we're not thinking of it in terms of sacrifice. And if we shifted that willingness to sacrifice something in terms of governance, the dynamics would change a bit. And to your question about heroes, we do have heroes. And I think the heroes are those who are working, for example, to ensure that children in slum areas have an education. So who are sacrificing their time, their resources, or other things they could have been doing to ensure that they are going around saying, donate money or invest money in this enterprise so that these children can go to school. For me, that's a hero. Heroes are those who are working behind the scenes to educate and raise awareness. Those are heroes of this time. Heroes are those who are going out of their comfort zone to change dynamics. I mean, Okoyemi runs a business, and some of the things that they do as part of their business might not be known to the public, but because they are impacting lives, I would consider Jobberman a heroic organization in that sense. So yes, we don't have the rara
superhero.
The superheroes, thank you. Maybe that's the way we should talk about it. Maybe we don't have the superheroes, but we have heroes who are doing small things in small spaces, sometimes large things in places, to change lives, to change outcomes. I mean, there are organizations, for example, who are working with widows, who are helping them get their entitlements that maybe their families are depriving them. They are going to court and doing it for free. For me, that's a hero. So yeah,
Yemi, I have a question for you. Do you believe you're one of them?
I believe I'm fulfilling purpose.
That sounds like a very Christian response.
I'm a Christian. What are you expecting?
Yemi's a hero.
I asked that question for emphasis. Okoyemi says to us, if we know who the heroes are, we can follow them. If we don't know them, how do we follow them? If we have two evils, which of the lesser evil do we choose? I need to ask you now, starting from you, what exactly is your recommendation to the church, to the young people that are watching us globally all over the world, to those who are asking, and I'm talking specifically to Nigerians who are saying, you know what, let's not talk any longer, or let's talk, but let's take action. What will be your remedy, your recipe to change the narrative?
Well, I would say you cannot complain when you're passive. Because if you leave the laws to the people that are currently making the laws, they keep making the laws as it pleases them. And so if they make the laws that are plain. So Yemi said something very, very touching when she was speaking. She said, imagine that there's a law, and it decides how you walk, when you walk, where you walk to, and why you walk. So if the person deciding that he's doing that for his own whims and caprice, you have no reason to complain. So I would advise, and I would suggest, and I would also implore that we obey scripture. So when the righteous are in power, the people rejoice, the land flourishes. Now the word righteous there does not have the label Christian on its head. It means those who are working according to the intents and purposes of God for man, which is for man to increase, multiply, subdue, dominate, and prosper. So if we are looking at that intent, if any man is not fulfilling that purpose for which God has created man, he has no right ruling us. He has no right leading us. He must have us increase, multiply, subdue, and dominate. We must have that at the back of our mind. And if they have very big say in what happens in the future, which was what it was in the church, I wonder where we got the notion of it in politics. The church, the place of, he was very much involved in governance. He was very much involved. It was always in the palaces. Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, heads of provinces, they were believers kingdom where they were at. So we cannot stay back and watch and allow where we go, why we do what we do, and then we complain. Some people will make whining when we should be working. We should start working and not just whining. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lion.
I think the responsibility of the church is to hold leaders accountable, not just individually, but collectively as a church. To even think we need to leaders. Let us know what they have for us. Office accountable. It is pretty much the church that can help to do that.
Hold on, Okwemi. I need to interrupt you there. Hold them accountable, you say?
Yes.
How? Hold on. Today we have as I refuse to run away from debate because they believe that they can do anything, but they will still end up in power, whether they debate or not. Or some people come up and they tell you, I will build roads, I will fix hospitals, I will give you light. And they tell you the same thing like a swan song. The man that is not available, how do you hold him accountable? The man that is not responsive, the man that believes whether you vote or not, I will be your next governor. How do you hold him accountable?
Thank you very much. Good question. Yemi shared a slide when she was presenting the other time, and it was very insightful. The guy who stood at the other end of the plank, and a lot of people at this other end. I think it's important to think about what that means when it comes to situations like this, right? I have some sympathy for politicians in Nigeria, actually, having been a business leader. The reality tends to forget very quickly. So you put me in a position, but you actually don't ask me questions about whether I'm doing the right thing or not. Frankly, I won't lie to you, I would forget. Imagine as a business leader, you don't ask me about your salary. I would actually forget to pay your salaries. It's that simple. Because you not getting your salary doesn't hurt me. Who does it hurt? Coming elections. It's also a sad story that somewhere in one state of the state, it's the party that is holding the governor accountable, not the people. It's the people that should be doing that job. And that's the reality. Right? And we need to start. It's pretty much almost 50% of all the people are talking about here.
Absolutely.
Right? In terms of voting. It's a sin if we don't hold them accountable. It's just that straightforward. We cannot be voting them in and then they come do whatever they want to. They are Christians or whatever we are praying. It's totally wrong. It's totally wrong. A leader should be held accountable. That's just it. And we just need to start. We need to start with the very little of us that are here. And you mentioned debates. Let me quickly point to that. I personally believe nobody has any business voting for someone that is not sure for a debate.
Nobody has any business voting for vote for anyone
that does not show for the debate.
So you're saying, you're giving us recommendation. Nigerians all over now. Yes. If anyone that does not show up for a debate,
do not vote for them.
Don't vote for them.
They are told that they cannot.
No debate, no vote.
No debate, no vote. Because it's very straightforward. They are only saying you are not important. Right? And if someone says you are not important, then why? Let's think about it. It's just basic respect.
Well spoken. Yeah. Or do I go to the gentleman and come back to you?
That's fine. That's okay.
I should kill it.
I mean, it's very interesting. My colleagues have said some very, very interesting things. But the question I then ask is, or what I would like to pose is, hungry men don't have heroes, to start with.
Hungry men don't have heroes.
Hungry men don't have heroes. Uneducated men don't have heroes. They just have people that feed them.
Bam.
They have no heroes.
So, don't call a man who is feeding someone so that they can be loyal to them a hero. We need to redefine the parameters of heroism. Yemi is a hero.
Definitely.
Okpeyemi is a hero. In fact, I can be sure that 1 or 2 or 3 people have gotten jobs through Okpeyemi's business, Jobberman. Those are the people that you refer to as heroes. Unfortunately, people like Yemi and Okpeyemi and myself and all of us here do not run for public office. We don't run for public office. Okay. So the people who run for public office are the people who feed you so that you can sit by their side the rest of your life collecting peanuts. Now, when we talk about the church, it's a myth. The church is you and I. The church is the hungry man. The church is the beggar. The church is the shoemaker. The church is the pepper seller. They don't have food at home. When they get to that polling unit and they want to cast their vote, it is highest bidder. And they will sell it. If we talk from now till tomorrow, they will continue to sell it. Because there is no food at home. Some people have posited that to emancipate the people, you must educate them.
Yeah.
Because without education, you don't have a voter. You don't have a voter. In a particular state in Nigeria right now, somebody has said, look, somebody has just simply said, we will no longer support this person. We will support this person. It doesn't matter what that man has done since he came into office. Everybody who has benefited or not benefited will go the other way. Why? They are being fed. So the problem is you and I. What is the level of voter education that we have in the country? The level of education that you have, social and political, will determine the quality of votes that are cast at the ballot box. Because every vote has a quality, 1 to 100. The man who collects 40,000 has 1.5% over 100. The man who goes to the polling unit and says, if you give me 40,000 from now to tomorrow, I won't vote for you. That man has a 95% voter quality. And how do you determine that voter quality? You determine it by educating the voter. You and I need to be educated about the quality of people we should vote for, what we should look out for. Remove the instant part from politics and put the enduring part into politics. Then we want that we can hand children. Then our children will not say, the labors of our heroes. Right now, it is the shenanigans of our past. I don't want to call them heroes. Our past people. That's what it's something, but it's not heroes.
Thank you very much, Caleb. Solomon, before you speak, some persons have held that one of the reasons why the narrative is not changing is that this generation, 18 to 35, 18 to 40, they are maximally distracted. Distracted by selfies. Distracted by Instagram posts. Distracted by likes, follows, and unlikes. Distracted by makeup, head up, down up. Distracted by everything that can distract them. What is Caleb spoke about? Education, voter education. Solomon, you are running for office. How many young people have you engaged about the subject of the political dynamics in Nigeria that are absolutely clueless? A generation of young men that can talk about football but do not know their local councillor. A generation of young men that are arguing between the Emirates and Old Trafford, but they know next to nothing about governance. How will the narrative change in that direction?
Thank you. You don't blame them. Surely you don't really blame them. It's as a result of what they got. Maybe that we didn't get quality education. as teachers went on strike, football and all other things were those things that we engaged ourselves with. And so a whole lot of things has derailed the average Nigerian youth, that connote average Nigerian youth. But you know what? Let me start from what you said about the churches. I believe the church has a huge, huge role to play. The church can determine who is the next president of this country. The church can determine the next governor of your state. The church can determine the next senator and every other position available.
Solomon, I have a question. The church. Can we hold the church responsible for where we are as a nation?
Yes, we can.
Hold on. Can we hold the church responsible for where Nigeria is as a nation?
Yes.
Jola said, and Yemi said a while ago, that to be a Christian and be in politics was a no-no. And he explained, Jola explained, Paul, Daniel, and all those people, that was not correct. They were engaged in politics. The swan song many of us grew up with, Christian politics don't mix. Nigeria is on the journey of recovery. Is the church part of those who have brought us to where we are?
The church is a huge culprit at getting to where we are today, because the church had not played the role it should play. Rather than the church looking at its members and say, oh, you are well educated, you are well experienced, and what about you? If you think about it, what about you being the next governor of your state? And the whole congregation and the whole Christian body, and rally around support and vote for them. That person who is God-fearing can then be in power and begin to change. But what the church does is sometimes focus on prosperity, sometimes focus on the fact that, well, whatever it is they do, let me just keep on getting well. Let me just keep on, when they say there's a, casting down, say there's a lifting up. And so we begin to prophesy and say, oh, Father, whatever happens, let me just have my way. If 1,000 people are not getting their job, let me just, rather than saying 1,000 people should get their job, all of us should get a job. Rather than saying all of us should, do well, we just pray for yourself and, things like that. And that's what we've been made to believe. And so the church is a big culprit at where we got to today. And you know what? I said 2019, we must get it right. It is not too late. The church can still rally around whoever it is. They can come together. You can name the 5 biggest churches in Nigeria. Within Church of God, we will definitely be number 1. And so let's begin to change the narratives. It must start from the pulpit. Because once we get it wrong, it also starts from the pulpit. What we see today is the political leaders coming to the church to get the blessings, not the church sending out the people who have been trained, who have been encouraged, who have been tutored to go and lead the nation. We are the rulers, we are the leaders, and so we have been molded in such a way that we can lead generations, that we can lead the nations. We are nation builders as a Christians. And that's what Yemi was telling us. That is our faith. If you do otherwise to this, you're doing otherwise to your faith. Now let's go to it. You said the youth are distracted, right? We don't blame them. But what about those who are not distracted? What have they given us? Okay, your generation was not destroyed, were you? So how far have you helped us in this country? What have you really done for us? So you cannot blame. This is the age, and they were doing what they are expected to do at their age. What the church and a whole lot of us need to do is to now tailor the Insta politics, tailor the Twitter, tailor every other thing into choosing right, into believing that we can do it, and into harnessing all our votes and making sure we vote for the right person. Because Yemi Adamolekun she's a hero. Is a heroine or a hero, that's who she is. Because we over the years, she has encouraged people like myself to get into politics. And if you don't know it today, I'm telling you now, you've encouraged people like myself to get into politics because she's out there on the streets, she's out there protesting, whether it's bring back our girls, whether it's occupy Nigeria, or whether it's, bring the political office holders to be accountable. And she's an hero. And I think we should move beyond what we're doing now. All of us should. He said it, that all of us possibly here are heroes, but they've not gone to contest. So why not pick up the nomination form for the House of Assembly in your state?
Solomon.
Have you heard the price?
Solomon is canvassing, okay? Trying to recruit Caleb into his political party. Solomon, you asked a question about my generation. And you asked a question.
Are you sure you want to answer that?
And you asked the question, what have I been doing? The interesting thing is this. Moderating the agenda is part of my contribution. Changing narrative. I wasn't going to let you get away with that. Okay, Yemi, I saw your hand raised before I come to Yemi.
Okay.
You wanted to say something.
Yes. The Bible says in the book of John, it said, the world hated me first before it hated you. I think, if anything, while I don't think it's the fault of the church did not get us to where we are, but I think the church definitely should be a force to taking us out of where we are.
Has the church woken up now? Is the church awake now?
Frankly, no.
The church is not awake.
The world hated me first before he hated you. I think the church is still at a place, and I must say a lot of young leaders who are also aspiring to political office. When I said something about sacrifice the other time, I meant what I said. To really make change happen, you cannot say you want to be loved, especially by the opposition, by those who you are trying to get to change. We find the church and a lot of leaders who we want to believe in playing that balanced game, right? Not wanting to do what? To shake tables, like we call it. And from what I know, even when it comes to business, you have to be contrarian to make things happen. You have to be very different. You have to show it clearly that you are different. What we are getting is, we're not really seeing any difference, right? The church is not coming out to say, this is what we believe in, right? We want to be loved by politicians and the elite. No, it can't work that way. The church needs to have a strong position so that the politicians, the world of politics would shift and work the way we want them to work, rather than we trying to toe their line. I've not seen that yet. I'm still hoping to see that. I think when we start seeing that, then we'll start having serious conversations about the church making that change in politics.
It is still the Agenda 2018. Yemi Adamalekum, talk to us.
Well, a couple of things. Vote buying. All of our votes are for sale. Every single one of us. Now, what I choose to sell my vote for is different from what a hungry man, to use Caleb's word, chooses to sell his vote for. So I can want to discuss through a debate, what are you promising? I want this type of education policy, healthcare policy. So we can talk policy, manifesto, long-term vision. But for a hungry man, I want now. And my own is more transactional because I want it now. Now, it also ties to the responsibility we have. The hungry man has not seen you, who have asked for schools and this, get it. So let me just get the one I will get now. And then you people can do whatever you want later. Because as you said, they promise this, promise that. Nothing gets delivered. So do we really blame those who want their promise fast-forwarded to election day? So there's no fast track, so there's no story about that. So I think we need to think about that, which goes back to my point around the conversation being long-term, not you trying to convince them on election day that their choice is wrong. That's number one. Number two, to use Okoyemi's analogy, if you think of politicians as employees, I said that when I was speaking earlier, we employ them, and we, in a sense, pay their salaries. So you have an employee on Monday, Okoyemi doesn't come to work. On Tuesday, strolls in at about 11. By 3, carried bag and gone. Wednesday, they're feeling like they want to work. They come at 9, but by 4, they are gone because there's midweek service. On Thursday, they just don't show up. They don't call you. On Friday, which happens to be the first Friday of the month, you show up at 10, but by 1, to beat Lagos traffic, they are gone because camp must happen. Now, they do this Monday, week in, week out, month in, month out. But you don't give them a query. and their salary is complete. They don't even need to remind you. Their salary is complete, alert, every month without fail. What is the incentive of that person to do anything different? Would you as a businessman even do that? No. Would you have an employee like that and not query the person?
Never.
He said never. But that's what we as citizens do. We give them a free pass to do whatever. Which is why, to your point, they feel that they don't need us to get elected or be in office because we're not demanding of them what they need to do. And my third point is about the church. And this goes back to the point about the office of the citizen. He had asked earlier about why we don't occupy it. Office of the citizen does not come with a car, does not come with a pilot vehicle, does not come with security votes, does not come with wardrobe allowance, does not come with a salary.
Pension.
Does not come, no pension. It's not pension. Has zero benefit in terms of material things. But the benefit is in your quality of life and knowing that you've employed these people and you will hold them accountable. So because they don't give you offer letter, there, Gyodo, Office of the Citizen, and list your perks of office, we tend not to own it with the pride that we should. But when we do and realize that the perks of it is in a society that functions, then we'll pay a bit more attention. And lastly, about the church. Christians and Muslims hear their pastor and their imam more than they will ever hear President Muhammadu Buhari.
I tell you.
More than they will ever hear their state governor.
Every Sunday.
Every Sunday, midweek plus.
Right.
But if you have Tuesday and Thursday, you can do that one too. So and knowing that you've employed these people and you will hold them accountable. So because they don't give you offer letter, there, Gyodo, Office of the Citizen, and list your perks of office, we tend not to own it with the pride. Hearing your pastor 3, for the...
So beyond the academic qualifications that you need to have, note that academic qualifications are only simply to expose your mind. So those that you can also get from work experience or other things, because the Nigerian Constitution doesn't limit your qualification to run for governor or president to having a degree. But what is important is that you have the soft skills that require you to be able to relate with people, understand their problems. Don't forget as well that politics is local. So you have to look inwards. Where are you running from? What are you running for? If you are running for governor, the skills you need for governor are different from the skills you need for House of Assembly. One, you are making laws. The other, you are dealing with daily decisions under pressure every day. So the skill sets are different. But for me, I mean, I know the other speakers will add some other things. One thing that must resonate through every skill that you acquire for public office is the ability to inspire hope in the people. You must be able to inspire hope in the people. If you have 10 degrees and you cannot encourage the people, you're not leading. And the people will not follow.
Oh, please, a round of applause. A round of applause for that one. Thank you very much. I'm going to take one more question because of our time. I'm going to take one more question, and that question will come from the lady in brown. Please, a round of applause for her as she asks the panel her question.
My question is a practical question, and I wouldn't want to speak much grammar here. I'm speaking from the aspect of a practical life. I'm a girl of a mother selling moi moi by the roadside. I graduated 2 years ago, and I've not gotten anything to do. Now that we are talking about changing the narratives, how can I practically be involved? For the past 2 years, I have no job. My mom is still selling moi moi by the roadside. How can I get into this? I'm ready for it. How? When? And how is it going to happen? That's my question.
I'm so hit by that question. I'll say whoever wants to go should go.
Go ahead, Solomon, it's fine.
Go ahead, Solomon.
Yeah, I mean, well, we are moved by your question, but this is it. Like he said, you don't have to lose hope. You have to keep believing. A lot of people in your shoes are leaving the country and are going to Canada and all of that, but they're still going to come back and meet in Nigeria the way it is. Now, what I advise is to look out for whoever it is in your state who is running for a position that you believe in. And so support them, support the right people to be in office. Now, once a right person gets to office, it can begin to fix some of the problems. You can speak to so many people around you, including in churches, business leaders, and that's why it's good to come for events like this. You network, that way you begin to meet people who could offer you appointments and all of that. But please keep believing. It will definitely happen. Thank you.
Really quickly. Yeah. I think it is very important in terms of who, and to Solomon's point, who the person surrounds themselves with. I, as a person, for example, would hire someone any day who is hardworking, who has a willingness to learn, but doesn't have a degree. Any day. Because at the end of the day, your degree should technically tell me that you've gone to school, you've learned something, and you've shown a capacity to process information and repeat it.
That's about it.
Now, if you don't have that, but you're able to show me that you can learn on the job, you're willing to work, you want to learn, you want to do something, those are skills that speak. So it's not a function of what your mother does or doesn't do, or the function of that you can't get a job. It's a function of what you have to offer. One of the things I've realized in also engaging young people who are graduates is an unwillingness to invest in themselves. You can work, for example, for 6 months. So it's not necessarily a job where you have a job letter with a salary. My office takes interns, for example, from not paying anything to a position where we can actually now afford to give them a stipend for transportation. But what, and some of them have been commuted to full-time staff. But it just showed that, look, I like this organization. I'm willing to give of my time, because that's what I have. I don't have a job anyway. I'm willing to give of my time. I live in X. Would you mind giving me 5,000, 10,000, so I can actually get to work? Because otherwise I won't be able to. And then on the job every day, showing what you have to give. So it's not, so I think in this, the focus is not the environment, but in what the person who you said is interested. The person is interested, so it's the interest that will shine through. If I'm seeing you come to work on time, do your work, deliver, that doesn't tell me your mom sells women. It tells me nothing. It tells me you want to work. And that's the important bit.
So, please.
Can I also add something quickly?
Okay.
I'm sorry you've been out for 2 years and you've not had a job, but just hearing you speak, you sound great. I do not think you are that unemployable, right? And I think it's important that she doesn't leave here thinking that she really can't get a job. So definitely, I think it's important we do something about that. Please, let's meet up afterwards.
Okay. All right. Now, hold on, everyone. Hold on, everyone. I know right now several of you want to tell us how somebody who is taking care of you is probably selling pure water. But it's fine. It's fine. I'm going to ask you, Ma, are you satisfied with the answers you have gotten?
I want to say something to her.
Huh?
I want to say something to her. Sorry.
Someone said,
see,
yes,
for me,
I have a job.
For me,
Yeah.
that particular question touched my soul because I love moi moi. And I love moi moi a lot.
Yeah, she speaks.
Beyond that, I feel like you don't know what you are sitting on. Moi moi. You don't understand what you are sitting on. Now, look. So forgive me. Look, there's a guy on my street where I live. What he does is he washes cars. Sometimes I wake up as early as 5 so that I can call him to wash my car. Why? He is so busy. If I wake up at 7 and I tell him to wash my car, he will tell me he's sorry, that he has 10 other cars online waiting to be washed. So I had to book for the next morning. So if my driver doesn't come to wash my car, or for a weekend he's not there to wash the car, then I had to rely on, I would have called the guy the day before. Tomorrow morning I'm leaving by 7. Please be here by 5. Politics is local, and so is influence. Where you are selling moi moi, you and your mom can be more influential than the local government chairman. It is how you sell the moi moi. It is what you do while you sell the moi moi. And like Opeyemi said, you don't sound like somebody that, in fact, the way you pose that question, you throw us up, you don't sound like somebody that cannot be employed. So your skill set is not the issue. Is using the skill set to maximize the influence that you already have in front of you.
Thank you very much for indicating the fact that you were satisfied with the answers you've gotten. Well, you know, with what you just said, I'm very sure this lady would first submit her CV to Mr. Opeyemi. When she has gotten the job, she will sell more and more to all the staff in the office. All right, so please, a round of applause for our panelists. A round of applause for our panelists. A round of applause for our panelists. How many of you think it has been exciting being a part of the Agenda 2018? And how many of you would like to give an appreciative round of applause for our panelists? And on this note, while we remain standing, because I know very well that when you are standing, you pay attention more. It's a pleasure to invite the legal practitioner who did a wonderful job of moderating the panel session to come give us the final word and closing remarks for the Agenda 2018. A round of applause for Mr. Biodun Famojuro.
Please be seated briefly. We're rounding off now. To those who have been watching us at home, I believe strongly that you have been maximally blessed. You have been provoked, you have been challenged, you have been encouraged. You have learned something important, which is it's time for you to take action. Never complain about what you permit. The man that refuses to die cannot be buried. It is time for Nigeria to arise. It is time for the church to awake. The Agenda 2018 has started the course of changing the narrative. And I want to say this to everybody watching us and those with us here in the studio. Please understand this. Your generation will ask a question about you. It's either your generation will rejoice at your birth or your generation will question your existence. Which one will it be for you? It has been the Agenda 2018, changing the narrative with a wonderful panel. My name is Abiodun Famujuro. We would not close this wonderful broadcast without doing something. Taking a decision. I will be part of those who will change the narrative. I'd like you to please rise as we pledge to the nation Nigeria to communicate that we have taken and received a new mandate that will change the course of this nation. If you will be that person in your location, in your locale, then someone will join you. Listen, when you decide to burn, the world will come and watch you. You are unstoppable. You are unbeatable. Let no man tell you you cannot. Let no one tell you it is impossible. It is always impossible until it is done. Shall we take the pledge together? I pledge to Nigeria, my country, to be faithful, loyal, and honest, to serve Nigeria with all my strength, to defend our unity and uphold our honor and glory. So help me God. Amen. See you at the Agenda 2019. It's been a great time having you. I celebrate you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, just spare 1 minute, to listen, watch, and of course, enjoy the video.
Nigeria touted as one of the most promising nations in the League of
Ladies and
Nations.
gentlemen, you can have your seat. Just enjoy this. The Agenda 2018 closes with this. Thank you very much.
A decade after the Second World War. Our founding fathers, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, Sir Amadu Bello, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Sir Tafawa Balewa, amongst others, envisioned a nation bound by love, united.
This is not too I believe. Audio, please.
So you registered to vote. You should be very, very proud because that card that you hold in your hand has the power to change this nation one vote at a time. So, very simple. Select, vote, and protect, and do it very wisely.
Yes, we are so amazing. That's the least we shall be. At the heart of the nation, changing history. How can they say that we are finished?